Well, welcome back. Here we are on Mental Health Mondays with The Refuge, and we have been hosting these short conversations with friends of ours who are therapists, and this season also life coaches and spiritual directors and mental health sustainers who are just here to help us make it through this really hard season as a culture. And we are really grateful that we know such amazing people. And the Refuge is a Christian community and mission center hubbed in Broomfield. And our hope is always offering options for healing community. And so I'm here with my friend Joe Rainey, and we've been hosting these every Monday. And today we're really happy to have with us Mark Whitney. And Mark Whitney is a therapist in private practice in Denver, and a friend and a collaborator on creating places where people can really grow in intimacy and connection and healing and health. So today, as we are kind of traveling into season 2, into a thing that we didn't even know would exist. We didn't know when we started this that we'd still be here, but we are. And so every Monday, we will continue in season 2 to just offer some ways for us to keep sustaining. And Joe and I facilitate these, but we're getting all the tools with you because we're having a hard time. This is hard to do. None of us have ever done it before. And so we need you, Mark. We're glad that you're here.
Thank you. Super glad. I know Mark from many years ago, and friends of friends, and meeting and laughing, and just good person, and really grateful to hear what he has to share with us today. And just so you know, we're still going to be doing the discussion questions. So underneath the description box in YouTube or the show notes on Spotify, there will be discussion questions to go over, just to process the content and actually like digest it a little bit rather than just kind of letting it hit you. So excited to hear what you have to say today, Mark, and so glad you're here with us.
Thanks. Well, I want to, I guess, first start by affirming both Kathy and you, Joe, in saying that it's absolutely been a difficult season for everybody, including therapists. And I think that's probably something that you guys have already spoken to probably many times with the people you guys have hosted. But that's definitely where I would say the thing I want to talk about most comes from today is just through my own difficulties of having to figure out identity-wise who I am now as a therapist within this context of Zoom meetings and masks and all the things that are necessary to keep us safe and going, but also make it pretty hard to connect. And so one of the things that I focus a lot on with clients is just identity. And identity, I really define loosely just as how you see yourself, how you see any form of higher power or that deeper part of yourself that you can connect with, and then the other people around you. And I guess the thing that I really want to talk about most today is how small habits are really, really important right now. So I'll give you a little bit of a backstory for me and how I am not a conscientious person. So on personality assessments, that's one of the assessments. And conscientious people are the type of people that are like on it. They're like, they'll get things done. They stay motivated. They like know how to do things well. I can do that in good times. So when things are good, like I'm pretty good at doing that. But when things like this came and hit the fan and everything fell apart, you better believe I'm the first person to go back to really crappy coping mechanisms and thought patterns and just all the things. I mean, what we're experiencing is not normal. It's not normal. We were already dealing with depression and anxiety crises across our world. And now, I mean, it's not normal what we're in. So when I talk to people about habits and I talk to them about identity for myself, one of the things that I went back to is, okay, if I'm looking at my identity and I'm trying to connect into and show up well for my clients, show up well for my family, show up well in any of my relationships, I really do need to look back at what I believe about myself, what I believe about God in terms of what I'm using it as, and what I believe about the people around me. And honestly, I'm the type of person that I can get stuck thinking about those things. I can get caught. Like, those are really cool things to think about. Yes, I'm going to think about, how do I think about God? Oh, I hate God. Okay, cool. You know, those are good things to think about, but I'm not talking about the habit of thinking. I'm talking about some of the habits that we have to put into place to keep us moving. And so when I'm thinking about the three areas of, what do I believe about myself right now? What do I believe about others right now? And what do I believe about my higher power? I have to put some actionable items into the spaces that I find incongruencies and disconnection from my truest self. So as I sit, that's probably the first habit, is sitting, stopping and sitting, honestly. And there's many ways that we can do that. But when I sit in the space of going, wow, because of what's going on around me, I'm believing this about myself. I'm believing this about my wife. I'm believing this about my kids. I'm believing this about my higher power. And then go, okay, so this is not congruent with what I know to be true about me. So what do I need to do? And if you know me as a therapist, honestly, this is like not my thing, because I'm not good at this. I love talking about story. I love sitting in people's mess. Like, I'm a trauma therapist. I love working with people's trauma and helping them understand how it impacts relationships. But sometimes we have to triage. Sometimes we have to triage the bleeding. And so if you're bleeding, from a business perspective, I can look at how I'm bleeding out money, and then I'm going to put things into place and make sure that, oh crap, like, do I need to get on unemployment? Do I need to get the PP? Like, what are the things that I need to do? But then I don't think about how I need to do the same types of steps for myself. Now, some of that's because there's not someone giving me a website that says you need to go through these steps to take care of yourself through the pandemic, because it's been proven before and this is what we know. Like, that's not a thing right now. We don't know those things. So I want to talk just a little bit about what a habit could be in this context, because we could go on for days about that. So for me, one of the habits coming into this conversation that I'm focusing on is I tend to have a gremlin in my arsenal that likes to just make me nervous about what I'm going to say, how I'm going to appear. And honestly, because of Zoom, because I have a little picture of myself this whole time when I'm counseling and when I'm doing these things, that gremlin's really alive and well. So I could think that and go, okay, cool. I know that there's a part of me that's thinking this isn't good. The identification of that is not enough. You can't just identify that it's there. You have to put into practice the truth. And that truth for me is, I'm not defined by what Kathy or Joe or anybody watching this thinks about me. I have a great family and friends who know and love me well, who, if this were to explode in my face for some odd reason, would help me get through it and be fine, right? Now, that is so simple. It's not hard to call those things out, but they are true. They're true, and they have to be true. Otherwise, we're not going to follow through with them. If I'm saying, oh, I have family and friends, and I don't, that's going to make it really hard. So I happen to have family and friends who are a great support network, so I can reach out to them and connect with them. If I didn't have a healthy support network around me, and I found myself in a space of not being congruent with who I was, I would encourage anybody, if you're in that space and you're feeling isolated, reach out to a therapist who at least can give you a space to begin to process those and learn what it looks like to connect. But the discipline of saying, I'm not going to just think about this and move into, okay, when I get on the call and I hear the little gremlin go, oh, did you see Joe look at you that way? That was kind of funny. I know Joe. I know Kathy. I know who they are. I know the truth about both of them. I don't know them incredibly well, but I know them. And I know your guys' characters. And so I'm practicing the habit of trusting that as I come in, right? And so for me, that's a habit that I choose in almost every interaction that I have, is who am I showing up as and how am I doing that? So it's good to think about things, but it's also need to put things into place. Now, if I have time, I want to make sure I say something, because I am not big on legalism, and I'm not big on like you got to do it this way and do it that. It's not prescriptive. So I'm not saying that building habits is, finding the habits. I'll speak for myself. My habits used to be in the passive a place of looking at higher power as something that would kind of help me develop those habits. Well, in my story, I learned that I've just got to develop habits. I just need to sit down and do things and get them done that are good for me. They don't have to be based on an expectation of what I'm supposed to do. They don't have to, and I'm talking about tiny habits. There's a great book called Tiny Habits out there by a guy named BJ Fogg. It's awesome. It is a phenomenal book on just how do you add small things to habits you already have. Relational habits are harder. They're harder because of the disconnection we have here through computer, but two, what do you mean connect? Like, what do you mean the discipline? I mean, calling someone. I mean, picking up the phone and building a habit of doing that when you find yourself in the space where you're not thinking congruently with who you know to be. I'm talking about building the habit of journaling within that. I don't like journaling, so I don't journal, and that's okay. If you don't like journal, don't build the habit of journaling. But I love the habit of writing spoken words, so I'm going to do that instead, right? Higher power habit stuff is honestly one of the best places, I think, because I just remember that, man, I get to slow myself down. I have permission to stop and build habit around slowing myself down and connecting in with the part of this world in me that's just beyond me. I mean, it transcends the pandemic. It transcends the crappiness of this country. It transcends a lot of stuff, and habit in that is whatever you need it to look like for you to slow down and connect with it. There's all sorts of different things you can do, but for me, I'm terrible at discipline and I'm really bad at habits. I'm not good at them. So during this time, I guess one thing that you need to do that I would suggest is inviting people into those habits and not just doing it alone. Talking to people around you. If you have a partner, inviting them into a friend, whatever it is, but being able to talk with them about what it is you're hoping to do, but not even stopping there. Because if you just stop at, oh, I hope to do this, they're going to go, cool. I hope you do that. Great. Oh, are you kidding me? I literally never have my phone ringer on. That's weird. Sorry. How do you turn it off? Oh, yeah. Well, there's one for the books. This would be a good time. So I'm just going to go real live right now with you guys. So this would be a good time when my gremlin would pop up right now and go, ha, did you see how that happened? Like, you don't ever have your ringer on and now you just ruined whatever was going on in here. So a discipline I'm continuing to do right now, and a habit, is I'm going to return. One of my habits is speaking it out. So I'm speaking it out to the two people who are recording this and to the people who are listening to it. And that's a habit I'm creating so that I don't feel like I'm hiding and shame and fear and all the stuff that come along with embarrassment. So yeah, I'll stop there. I think I could go a whole bunch of different ways. I don't even know where we're at on time. Joe? Anyone? Hello?
We're good. We're good. We're good on time.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Did I go way over?
No, you're good.
Okay,
so you're perfect. So if there's any last thing that, like, just thinking about as you're forming habits, be careful of blank. Maybe that would be a last framing question, and then we'll.
That's perfect. Thank you. That's why I'm so much better when I have interaction with people. I think the last thing I would say in forming habits is you need to set your expectations really low and start there. So if you have a habit of, for me, I will share with one. I need to work out my arms a little bit more because I was trying to pick up my daughter. I was like, I'm not as strong as I'd like to be. So according to what I'm doing with the Tiny Habits book and how he does it, my goal is 2 push-ups a day. And I usually do about 25 because I've added 2 push-ups to the end of when I'm waiting for my daughter's like toast to whatever. I just do a couple push-ups. And so start small. Don't judge yourself in it is the other one. Just don't judge yourself. Be flexible and find some accountability from people who love you and care for you and know you. And so when they find you going into the place of legalism and shame and beating yourself up because you're not following through on the habits, let those people speak into your world and help you adjust. And I think beyond that, you'll be okay. So.
Thanks, Mark. That's really
Yeah.
good. Yeah, that's such a good reminder for me, because I mean, with little habits and big habits, I tend to like do way too much, and like
Me too.
Or like I get fed up with you know, owning too many things, and then I just want to like throw my phone in a lake, you know, rather than maybe just, you know, cleaning my closet out, or
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
I just
Totally.
So yeah, just to start like with small, reasonable goals and habits, and then I really like the reflection of like interpersonal and just internal habits of disciplining how we think about things, and noticing kind of that metacognition of like noticing what we're thinking about stuff, and just adjusting it and being gracious, you know. So
yeah. And I love the heart. My counseling and identity is from a place of heart, but we do and have been equipped with things in our brain and in our behavior and our thinking process. Like we're able to engage things and change our brains and the way we think about things. But it does require some discipline and some habit to it. And I hate that, and I fight against it, and I'm not good at it, but it's true. It really is a key component of health.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesomeness. Yeah, I was thinking as you were talking that nothing drops out of the sky, you know, so it always just takes intention. And I heard you say this, and I just want to emphasize it for all of us, is that we just have to be so gentle with ourselves in this moment. And some of these habits will change. So maybe it's just a habit for this week to make it through this week.
Yeah.
And then there's a new thing. So I think that's a piece with this particular kind of collective trauma that we're in right now, is that we always need to be making micro adjustments. And that's what I hear you saying, that I think is so important, because sometimes we want to do the big ones, and those are the ones that count. And then we're pissed off at ourselves when we don't do it. Instead of just being gentle and saying we're doing the best we can, but I can practice this little thing in a new way, and then reevaluate and see how it goes, and just be really kind to ourselves.
Yeah, and it really does come, I mean, if you look back at just general addiction stuff, it really is, what can I control now? The serenity prayer, like, help me understand what I can do, not what, and help me understand what I can't do. And these little habits, small, silly ones that you could think up, are really powerful. And there are things you can do on that day, even if you're waking up 100% depressed and you don't want to go outside and you don't want to call your friends. There are things that you can do even in your thinking while you're lying in bed that create habits that you don't even need to believe are happening, that are happening, that will improve your mental health during this time. So it's important.
Love it. And so the reflection questions are really worth pursuing. I'm so grateful to Joe for building those, because every time I look at them, these are so good. And so our hope is really that you will consider in whatever way works for you, whether it's individually or in a little cluster, and that the path of recovery is always one day at a time. And that's actually how we're going to make it through this pandemic, is one day at a time. So thanks for being with us, Mark. It's so good to see you. We look forward to the time that it gets to be in real life. And meanwhile, thanks for hanging out with us this week.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye, friends.
Bye.
Bye.